So the house really reflects problems in Fred and Renee. Fred and Renee's marriage is cold because their sex life isn't functional, just like in Rear Window. Um, but so the cold house really reflects their kind of marriage. Um, it's tricky because it's like they don't want to talk about it. Like Fred's not able to satisfy Renee sexually, and but they don't really want to talk about it. And so they have these like ice cold weird conversations where they're not talking about it. Um, Right, so she's vamped up in this with this gorgeous hair, and I love she's wearing like this black sort of silk negligee with platform heels. My favorite costume detail about Patricia Arquette's character, both Renee and Alice, because of course she plays both characters. Both Renee and Alice, they love platform heels. And my favorite detail is that more than once, Renee goes out like to get the newspaper that's been left on the steps of her home and get like the mail. She goes out in a black silk robe with platform stiletto heels. Like who the fuck goes out to get like I who the fuck goes out gets that dressed up just to go get the mail, 10 feet away from your front door. Um, like sometimes I don't even bother to put shoes on when I'm taking out the trash. I just walk on the sidewalk in my socks because I just don't care. I mean, obviously, I am not Renee or Alice, as some of you may have noticed. Her outfits are really designed to communicate to you, the viewer, the way that she's like, "Oh, I'm going to stay in and read." And he says, "Read what?" And she laughs. But he's worried about that. Who's she getting dressed up for? He's worried that when he goes out to sort of do a saxophone performance, she's out cheating with him, and you see that cheating on him. And you see that when he's laying in bed, he imagines that while he's playing, she's at the concert with Andy, and she leaves with him, and like maybe they're gonna go have sex, and he calls her from the show, and she's not home, and he's worried she's having sex, and when he gets home, she's there. Um, so part of her outfits are designed to indicate her sexual desirableness and availability, because he's worried that he can't satisfy her, and so it kind of that he's worried that she's getting dressed up sort of for someone else, but her outfits are not really realistic. It's hard to imagine that she dresses like that all the time in the house. um, okay. um, yeah, all right. Let's talk. Oh, one of the I mentioned uncanny in the last video. One of the really uncanny details, just a great example of the uncanny from Lost Highway, is when Fred said, "I had a dream and I saw you, but it wasn't you." That's uncanny. It's something familiar, your wife, but somehow, for some reason, it's not really your wife. That's uncanny. Um, it's something familiar that has been made strange, and the familiar made strange is horrifying. And this movie is very, very much about that feeling. Um, cool. Okay. Um, and they have this sex life problem. It seems to be. I've read the script of Lost Highway, and I'm pretty sure it's premature ejaculation, but it doesn't really matter what it is. Like the sort of nonsense drugs that Dennis Hopper huffs in Blue Velvet, it doesn't really matter. So either he has erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation or something, but he's completely unable to satisfy her. And to make it extra sad, she kind of gives him a pat, like, "Oh, that's a good try," which is just like adds to his humiliation. You probably noticed, because we've seen enough of these movies now, and you've got a sense of the patterns that we're following in this class, that like Reverend Powell, like Jack in The Shining, like Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet, like L.B. Jeffries in Rear Window, like Jimmy Stewart's Jim Scotty in Vertigo. This is about masculinity, right? That his masculinity isn't he's not being traditionally masculine because he's unable to sort of sexually satisfy his wife. Cool. One music cue I want to point out that's not really, you probably didn't notice this. It took me a while to notice it. When Fred is having sex with Renee, there's a song playing, but it's muffled and hard to hear. Um, you will hear that song again when Pete and Alice have sex in the desert. It's a song that comes back. So they're kind of setting, it's one of those connections between one part and the other part, but it might not sort of jump out at you immediately. Okay, cool. We're doing good. Let's talk about, oh, and by the way, the song is called the Song of the Siren, which is about beautiful women who, it's from mythology. They're sort of these beautiful half women, half monsters that lure sailors, men, to their death with their beauty. They have a beautiful song, and you follow the song, and they crash your boat on the rocks, and you die. So it's about dangerous women, the femme fatale, like from Double Indemnity, or from Vertigo. Um, okay, cool. So let's talk about the videotapes that arrive at the house. First of all, and this is showing my age, but for those of you who don't know, there's like a black and white static at the end of the tape, and a lot of my students thought that was strange, but that was normal in 1997 when the tape ends and it's just like shh, and there's like black and white snow kind of looking things on screen. That was a completely normal thing for videotapes. If you've ever seen HBO, they often show you that HBO. That's what that is. It's what would happen when you ran out of tape on the VCR. So these tapes arrive. Now, there's one aspect of the tapes that I think is really important that students miss because it's our modern age has robbed it of its creepiness. When the tapes arrive, right, you get a tape of the outside of the house. Creepy, but, not losing your mind. I love that Renee's like, it's from a real estate agent. Why? Why would it be? Why would a real estate agent take a 3-minute black and white movie of the front of your house and then give it to you in an unmarked envelope on an unmarked VHS cassette tape? That's a crazy thing to say. This movie, everybody in this movie is really fucking weird. The thing that's really important about the tapes, because the next tape shows the inside of the house. And that's creepy to have someone videotaping the inside of your house. And it goes all the way into the bedroom, and Renee and Alice are asleep, and that's when they call the cops. And then the third tape takes you down that same path, except by the end of it, you see Renee's dead body, and you realize that Fred has killed her, even though he seems to barely remember doing that. He suspects he's done it, but he doesn't really seem to remember it. The important thing to understand about the tapes is that back in the old days of 1997, when the movie was made, cameras were bigger. They were bigger, and it's, first of all, it is creepy enough to have someone bring a camera into your home, like break into your house and film the interior of your house and you sleeping with a camera. Disturbing. But what makes it really disturbing in Lost Highway, and it's something that my students who are younger miss, is that the angle that the camera is at is impossible in 1997. Now, nowadays, I'm not making this on my phone, so if I wanted to get like an overhead shot like that, it wouldn't be difficult because I could just put the camera on a stick and kind of like walk over, like it's very easy to get an overhead shot. I'm literally a thing I carry in my pocket every day can do that. But for Fred and Renee, what the important thing to understand, part of the creepiness of the tape is who the fuck is filming that, and how the hell did they get a camera way up high on the ceiling? Because cameras are bigger and heavier, and even if you were very tall and put the camera at the top of your arm, it's too high. The point is that the angle that the camera is moving down the hallway in their house is an inhuman angle. And we've talked about this before. The God's Eye view in Night of the Hunter, the sort of, I mentioned that the opening shots of The Shining feature inhuman camera work where no human being could be up there kind of flying above the swooping around like that. It's, if you were Superman, maybe, but Superman's an alien, not a human. So the point is that it's weird enough to have somebody with a camera in your house, but that angle indicates it's bad enough to be watched by a person, but the angle the camera is at indicates you're being watched by something inhuman. Because you would need like big equipment to get it up that high and to videotape that. It was so much trouble to go to for what? So it feels not only like they're being watched, but they're being watched by something inhuman. This is echoed, by the way, when the police arrive. There's a great camera shot when the police are exiting the house. David Lynch pulls the camera way, way up high like this as the detectives, says battery pack, while the detectives are out front, and he's watching them from up here, so that there's a moment where it's like David Lynch, and this is why I say, don't just talk about what happens to the characters, but talk about what happens between the director and the audience. What David Lynch is doing, David Lynch films Fred and Renee, and all the characters in the movie Lost Highway in the same overhead creepy moment where they're being observed by something inhuman way up high, just like whoever broke into their house and filmed the top, filmed them from this inhuman angle. So that's a big part of the creepiness, I think, that a lot of my students miss. But it's important to notice that it's interesting to me that this is a movie and someone has a camera in the movie. So it's like a movie in the movie, like Inception. All right, pick it up later.